Welcome back. Tensions are running high in the world's top cocoa producer ahead of the highly anticipated presidential election. Despite mounting fears of violent clashes, some Ivorians are hoping to make their mark today. On the 5th of March, President Alassane Ouattara announced he would stand for re-election as he insisted that constitutional amendments introduced in 2016 allowed him to run again. The tensions have stoked fears that the crisis would feed into long-simmering grievances, threatening almost 10 years of fragile peace in a country that has never seen a peaceful and democratic transfer of power. Joining us now to discuss the elections in the Ivory Coast is Dr Charles Sinkala, President, Africa 55 States and Organization of African Political Parties Forum. Dr Sinkala, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, a fight for legitimacy is at the center of this weekend's vote, it would seem. So unpack the significance of the current political landscape in the Ivory Coast for us.
Yes, thank you very much, Mati, for having me, and good afternoon to the African people on the continent. I think the Ivory Coast is not an isolated situation. It is something that is sad on the continent that we Africans, we keep on fighting for power, just for the sake of being power without having something legitimate of trying to build our nations. And Ivory Coast, the wars hasn't started now. You must remember very well, going back just as early as 2010, we've had so much disunity within the country when Gabo was disposed of and convicted for criminal activities, and I was surprised that he came back again this election in 2010 as well to try to nominate his intention to stand as president. Among them, there are about 40 political parties who's been rejected by the Electoral Commission of Ivory Coast, and the issue of the 2016 constitution amendment, President Ouattara, insists that that was the beginning of this term, but the constitution is very clear that a presidential candidate or a president can only sit for 2 terms. And I think what has actually exacerbated the situation of violence is for the fact that they handpicked deputy president whom he thought would succeed him, to do whatever his arrangement he was doing, was accidentally, they say he died out of a heart attack. But very suspicious circumstances, and because of he lost the candidate whom he thought he would put there to protect his interest, post him being a president, has actually made him to come back and run for the presidential elections.
Dr. Sinkala, you also made mention of the fact that President Ouattara announced that he would stand for re-election, and he was also saying that the constitutional amendments, as you said, introduced in 2016 allowed him to run again, and in fact a court case agreed with him. So what does this mean for the tensions that are currently being seen in Ivory Coast that are leading to violence? I mean, some people, as we speak, are fleeing parts of that country.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunately, I have faith in the judiciary system of the Ivory Coast government, and I think that's what decides what we're calling on the Ivorian people and everybody who's trying to assist Ivory Coast to go through these peaceful elections. If at all there's a peaceful election in Africa, that they respect the constitution judgment, that he can run for another term, because they believe that the 2016 amendment was a reset of the presidential term, and subsequently was made that this is a second term now he has to run. That's why he's coming forward to contest the elections. I don't think he's that stupid for him to contest elections when he's not eligible. The Electoral Commission of Ivory Coast has actually nominated him to be a candidate. So what the people need to do is, for the sake of peace, is to go and decide by the ballot box, and they choose the leader which they want for the country to go back to the renewal and constitutional normalcy. I'm told that as well that the opposition political parties, they are threatening to boycott the elections. This brings another civil wars. Already from 2010, there's more than 3,000 to 10,000 people has been killed due to this disunity in terms of elections, in the country.
Now, in fact, despite calls by the opposition candidates for civil unrest, as you've mentioned, people have still gone out to vote. What does this mean then about the legitimacy of these elections, particularly as it speaks to the outcome?
Yeah, look, the legitimacy of the elections, it's dependent on the electoral college. Those people, the numbers who go to vote, and I think it will be decided on those numbers who win the elections. But we do not see a larger turnout because many of them, like I likely mentioned, they have boycotted. They say the President Ouattara is not eligible to stand for these elections. So a few of them, yes, we can't have everybody bad. The rest of them, they said, let's go decide by the ballot box and choose the leader that we need. It is up to the Electoral Commission, to interpret the laws and check what is the legitimate numbers which can be constitute to a majority vote, that can be decided by the people of Ivory Coast, to decide on which leader they should have. If they have, say, 10 or less than 10% of the population, of course, they have to recall the elections again, then there will be another rerun. To make sure that there's a proper representation for the electoral college dependent on the number of voters who are registered in this year's elections. And as well, we must not rule out the political interference from the Francophone countries who has actually for many years been found in the wrong path due to the involvement of France and other multinational countries, in the governance of the countries. And I think that has exacerbated the divisions between the unity in the countries, and the rest of the continent, because they've got their own choice of leaders whom they want to put on the helm of the power so that they can continue collecting the colonial taxes and diverting from the normal independence of the country.
With this insistence to run for the third term, what does it tell us about Ouattara's political hold and also the support that he's getting?
Yes, he's got very large number of support, from his political parties and from the outside. And you must remember that very well when he came into power in 2011. Also, his predecessor disputed these elections until he found a criminal case to charge him, so that he does not proceed with that criminal case. He's got very good support on the ground, and I think, it's only the disunity from the opposition political parties who hasn't been united, to find an amicable way if they have to depose him off from from power. I cannot also not rule out the possibility that he might lose the elections because of what has been happening, the civil unrest and what you've likely mentioned, the disunity in the country and the lack of proper governance. The whole government there is dysfunctional because of different factors and areas of people trying to participate in different types of elections. And as well as trying to make sure that Ouattara be removed from the presidential race. I mean, he's almost 80 years old. I can't see on many the main four contestants who are contesting these elections. All of them are above 67, 70 years. It is also unprecedented that we have the former president, who was there before 2010. Also is contesting. He's 86 years old, and this pains me a lot when I talk about governance in the country. Are we lacking leaders or young men and women in Ivory Coast who can contest these elections? Most of them, you find he was a deputy president or former president. Can we have a new breed of new leaders, who can take the baton from the old guard?
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Charles Sinkala. That's where we have to leave it for now, African political analyst.